What's up, everybody? My name is Aaron, and welcome to the Mad Maker Studio. It's date night. You know I love taking you all out on a date, and I know I'm a little late to the party, but I'm finally playing Rendezvous, a Marionetta fangame visual novel. If you don't know what Marionetta is, I'll put a link to the webtoon down in the description so you can check it out for yourself. It's also one of the few webtoons that I'm actively obsessed with, and I actually run a meme account for it on Instagram if that piques your interest any. I'll also put a link to that account down in the description. This game was released earlier this year on Valentine's Day, and it's a collaborative effort brought to you by what I would consider some of the strongest support beams of the entire Marionetta fandom. Now, am I being a little biased when I say that because I feel like I've gotten to know these particular individuals on a more personal level over the past year? Maybe, but honestly, I think their work speaks for itself because I fully and wholeheartedly believe that the Marionetta fandom would not be what it is today without the significant and numerous contributions of these particular individuals. There will be a link to the itch.io page down in the description, and I highly encourage you check out and play the game for yourself because it's always a different experience when you play a game versus watching someone else play the game. I've drawn out this intro long enough, so let's get started, shall we? Julia was risking it all right now. The words the ringleader had told her earlier in the week still weighed heavy in her ears. She was prohibited from going anywhere without telling Dottie or Bob and was under no circumstance allowed to see Shahid. There has been some speculation in the fandom about how to pronounce this man's name, but I'm going to refer to him as Shahid, because when we were doing name analysis and our theorizing early on in the series, his name means sacrifice. So I'm gonna call him Shahid. If anyone would like to correct me, please do. The entire fandom is up in arms about it. Despite that, the past few days, Julia had been discreetly exchanging notes with him. Whether it was underneath tables and chairs or carefully hidden behind equipment, the two made sure to be cautious with every message. They eventually agreed to meet up, and Shahid left instructions on how to reach their meeting point with his most recent note. Julia held the piece of paper, still in its almost pristine condition. She looked around. She was in a dirty old corridor, just as Shahid had described in the note. Decades-old posters were yellowing on the wall, with old equipment collecting dust. It looked like the broom was collecting dust as well. That's ironic. Each thing looked very old yet delicate, just like the photos her dad had hanging on the wall. I kind of want to give her my southern voice, because I did that in a reel on the Memestagram. I don't know, would that be too silly? I'll try it on. I think it suits her personally. I'll see my dad soon. I'll kill Tawny and go home. I have to. Shahid promised me. I just think it suits her. After a moment, it struck Julia that this was the exact hallway where she had broken down a few months ago. And also because I'm doing a lot of narrating that I'm using my normal voice for, I want to have some variation. When she had grabbed Camille and tried to find a way out, when she ended up running into Shahid, it seemed that anything related to Shahid would bring her to the aged hallway. She followed the instructions on the note, walking down on that path. Oh, there he is. There's our boy. She could see the doorway to the room along with a familiar silhouette. Julia moved quicker as she recognized him. As she drew closer to the room, her eyes widened in surprise. As Julia stepped into the room, she realized it looked nothing like what it appeared to be from the outside. Shahid hadn't told her much about the room in the note, it simply mentioned how to get there. The room was lit up by a soft glow of globe-shaped lights that were attached to a makeup mirror and hung over what looked to be a bed. Luxurious pillows and fine silks covered the bed. It had to be the most expensive thing she had seen until then, Whoever this room belonged to before, they most certainly were an important person. She walked farther into the room, approaching the man she was meant to meet up with. Hey, babe. Just look at them. I love them. As she stood right in front of him, Julia let him talk first. Asked him how he was or was. Oh, the little animation. Oh, I love it. Okay. Sorry, that caught me off guard. Just going off of Julia's character, as we know her right now, she's very blunt and straight to the point. So we're gonna pick that. Shahid. She called him to get his attention. It felt almost surreal seeing the Khan after all that just happened. They could catch up later, though. There were more important topics that had to be discussed immediately. She felt like she wouldn't be able to relax unless she got some answers. What are we going to do? Shahid was caught off guard with her question. I'm just now realizing I'm gonna have to give him a voice too. And I think he's just gonna get my really low generic voice because this is as low as I can go, and I'm so sorry. He expected at least how are you or something before getting straight to the plan. Oh no, did I already mess up? Did I already mess it up? No! I didn't do a safety save. But he quickly understood that what she needed right in that moment was to talk things through. Okay, first playthrough. We'll see what kind of ending I get, and that will determine if I do another playthrough on camera. But first playthrough, I'm gonna proceed with absolutely no safety saves. I'm just gonna, whatever fate befalls me, I'm just gonna accept it. But he quickly understood that what she needed right in that moment was to talk things through. If he could describe it somehow, he felt like she was hanging from a thread. Suspended up in the air without a place to stand on. Unmoving and aimless, that's what made their meeting so important. They had to figure things out for their sake, their future, and possibility of freedom. There are many things we could talk about. I feel like you already have something in mind. Am I doing his voice justice? Tell me, what exactly do you want to know? What is the most important thing that you want us to discuss first? The dagger, obviously. Julia replied without hesitation. What is there to say? You had the right dagger, you just didn't hit his head. Didn't hit his thread, excuse me. She definitely hit him in the head. That's one of my favorite panels. So yes, this is taking place like right after this season 1 finale events. Don't worry, they're already dead to begin with. Read the webtoon and then come talk to me. It's fantastic. It's all right though. There's always next time. She wanted to ask him something that has been burning in her head since the fateful day. Her tone came out. Oh, look at his little smile. I don't want her to be accusatory, even though she's probably like panicking so much right now. I want her to be genuine. I want her to be genuine with this man. He knows most of her secrets by now. They're in this together. They have to work together. Whatever's going to happen from here on out, they've got to be in it together. So you got to be genuine. I just want to know why. And please answer honestly. Why didn't you tell me I had to aim for the thread? Shahid furrowed his brows, confused. I thought you knew about the thread. Why would you think that? You know I don't know anything. I just joined the circus. Julia was surprised to find herself not angry. She felt a prickle of irritation, but for the most part, she was just confused and stressed. She just wanted this drama to be over, to be back home, to wake up in her bed and forget the circus ever existed. See? I thought the thread was the obvious answer. It's the thing that's tying us all together. You just had to cut it somehow, and that's it. But then when you came to me telling me that you knew how to kill Anton, that you saw him stabbing Finnegan. I thought, maybe it was as simple as that all along. Julia opened her mouth and closed it, realizing he was right. She said with confidence that she had seen Mr. Finnegan being stabbed. She had her back turned to the door, and as she saw Tawny holding a knife and Mr. Finnegan was never seen after that, it didn't take a genius to realize what had happened. Except that was the problem. She assumed how it went without actually checking. Look, I'm sorry for not clarifying. Their expressions are great. I should have just told you either way, just in case. Julia closed her eyes, inhaling deeply. It had finally clicked into her mind how her vagueness caused this misunderstanding. Time and time again, her thoughts were ahead of herself and had been her worst enemy. Well, shit. No, Shahid, don't apologize. It was reckless of me to make such an assumption. The Akan opened wide the three of his eyes, hearing attentively at her words. I wasn't thinking right in that moment and didn't thought of that possibility, so I believe that was what happened. Ha! If that's true, then both of us are to blame. He laughed at the absurdity of the whole situation. The two of them were reckless idiots. I unknowingly hid crucial information, and you unknowingly shared false information. We're terrible at this. The girl felt herself relax for the first time in the night. Her thoughts about that issue no longer eating her up. That's why we should move on and continue planning. Move on we shall. Question for you, pretty girl. What have you told Anton about all this? Nothing so far. He was very upset when he first tried to talk to me. Meanwhile, I couldn't utter a single thing, so he told me to meet later this week. There was a stiffness in the air. The two decided to ignore it and kept talking. Julia couldn't grasp what was present in Shahid's eyes that made her so nervous. What she knew for certain is that they were softer than usual, if that made any sense. So we need to both agree on the story and make it believable. Any ideas or suggestions? Tawny wanted to know where I got the dagger. Simple. I gave it to you. Well, yeah, but it doesn't make sense. How would you even get it? Did you tell him anything? That's my problem. Leave it to me. You can't expect to make a plan on the go. He's going to ask me how you got it since you didn't answer that for him. And that's why you say, I don't know. Act as if I didn't share that info with you. Okay. So what do I do if Tawny asks why I tried to kill him? Say I promised you a way home if you killed him. Julia bit her cheek, body tensing. That was no lie. He had promised her a way home, yet she was still stuck in the circus. How would Tawny react if she told him that? Would he take pity on her and let her go home? Or would he think she was naive for thinking there's even a way out? What if there was a way, but her knowledge of the circus was considered a threat for all of them, and that's his excuse for not letting anyone go? Personal theory? Tawny's pact is the darkest one of them all. Whatever the Beelzebub thing in the spirit world, he's feeding everyone spirits to. I think he's contractually obligated to keep feeding it. That's another reason this series just absolutely gave me such brain rot, is because there's so much lore, so much theorizing you can do with it. Like, I don't even know how it's going to enter into season 2. There's so much happening and going on. It's driving me insane, but I love it. Was it wishful thinking? She imagined herself returning home, running into her father's arms. She wasn't sure if she would tell him and the government about the circus after everything she's learned. But you were going to take me home, right? I was planning to, yeah. You just need to kill Anton and free us from this hellhole in order to actually leave. And he's sweating because he's not sure that's really the answer either. That was it. It was the seemingly empty promise what she was holding on to. And honestly, it was the tiny hope she needed to not fall completely in despair. Okay, I'll just tell Tawny you made me do all of this. Shahid nodded, a sly grin spreading across his face.
Clever girl, now you're catching on.
There was that feeling, a warmth on her face, a turning of her stomach. He could never shut up and be normal. He always had to praise her in a way so reassuring and so embarrassing at the same time. It should be illegal, she thought to herself. What do we do after this? After today? Are we done meeting?
I mean, not unless you want to stop meeting.
I think after I meet with Tawny, we should check in so we can get on the same level of understanding.
We shouldn't meet here again, though. Not next time.
What? Why not? This room is pretty isolated.
We can't raise suspicion. Most of the caravans can be moved around the circus and changed places, but this room isn't one of them. If we keep meeting in the same spot, we're bound to get found out at some point.
What are we going to do then? Julia asked, quite concerned, although for the look of his face, Shahid seemed to have everything figured out. He suggested, I just thought we were going to be making choices for Julia, but we're also going to make choices for Shahid. I mean, different places and hours seems like the logical conclusion. Camilla's a messenger, maybe because at the end of season 1, Julia told her about the entirety of her pack, more or less. And I don't know what too many ideas could have, but I mean, different places and hours, that seems like the most logical.
We could always do different locations during different hours.
Simple, but hard to catch on to. How would we communicate to the next location? Should we continue to leave notes?
That's not a bad idea, but we already put ourselves at risk the first time. I think it's best if we discuss it during our meetings. It'll be safer that way.
And what if something comes up that threatens the meetup?
If it comes down to it, we'll resort back to notes for a short period.
Yeah, I think that'll work. Then where would be next meet time?
I haven't thought of that.
Really? Shahid, you suggested the idea.
Calm down, let's talk it out.
Fine, what's another place like this one that we could use?
Secluded and unguarded.
No one comes here at night.
Night. What if we use the attraction tents for our meetings?
Perfect!
They're hella busy during working hours, but barely no one checks on those during the night.
Unless they're close to the bonfire.
Oh, of course. Why didn't I think of that sooner?
Julia gave him a puzzled yet curious look. On one hand, she was glad he was enthusiastic about it. On the other, she wasn't sure if the ideas he would come up with would be as good. He had a bad reputation after all.
What about the maze? Have you been to that one?
Yeah, it was very confusing. I don't know if it'll be a good idea.
No worries, Julia. I know that maze like the back of my hand. I used it as an escape whenever I got in trouble.
Does anyone know that?
They haven't found out yet.
Shahid opened his eyes at the realization that just struck him.
Actually, I think you're the first person I've told that to. You're not gonna tell on me with Anton, right?
Haha, how could I? Julia snickered at Shahid's childishness. Sometimes she couldn't believe he was most likely ancient. Yeah, we're in the fandom, we're speculating he's maybe in his 40s. Quite possibly around her dad's age because, I mean, Come on, if you're still watching this, you have read the webtoon. You know it. You know the bombshell that got dropped at the end of season 1. There was a picture. There was a picture, and I can't wait to see where that goes. Anyway. He acted just like her age. Maybe even younger. That side of him is nice. Yes, he was reckless and unpredictable most of the time. However, that part of him felt the most honest to himself. Then, it might work. Only if you guide me through it, though.
You can count on me.
Same hour as today?
Maybe a little later. I'll be there an hour earlier to make sure no one got lost in it and stayed after hours.
Good call. It settled in. Julia felt what she could best describe as hope light up inside of her. It gave her a wave of energy and confidence. For a brief moment, she felt sure that she could get out of the circus before a year.
With that out of the way, let's move on to something else. What's with the attic god? Why did the passage close when we tried to go in?
Maybe he just didn't like you. Julia was speaking in a serious tone, the slightest waver in her voice from holding back a laugh. There was something oddly amusing about the fact that the one other thing in the circus that seemed so magical and surreal hated the person who performed magic.
What makes you say that? The fact that he closed the entrance right as I tried to step through.
Yes, it was open for me earlier. I didn't ask for it to do anything. I don't even know if it can hear me.
Do you think Anton told it to close so we'd be caught?
Julia was confused on why Shahid kept asking her questions as if she knew the answer. She's only been in the circus for a few months. She was the last person he should be asking those questions. I don't know why you're asking me. You've been here longer. You also felt their presence from before. If anything, you know more than I do.
Yeah, but I've never spoken to them before. You have. Did he tell you anything?
There was awe in Shahid's voice along with the slightest trace of jealousy. Some form of childlike wonder had taken place in him, wanting to learn every little thing about the attic monster or god as he called him. I only remember hearing gibberish. After he gave me the dagger, I ran away. I'm not going to stay and have a friendly chat with him.
He gave you a mission, to kill Anton, and you never thought to talk to him?
Like I said, he doesn't look the friendliest.
I recall you saying he looks bulbous.
Not a friendly look.
Alright, fine. We can figure out the whole attic god situation later. For now, we need to discuss the most important thing.
Shahid took a breath, preparing himself for the next debate.
We need to think alternatives on how to kill Anton, in case the dagger is not a viable option.
What else would we use then?
I don't know. That's why we need to talk about it.
Julia insisted on using the dagger because something about it caught her attention. It was the only way they knew that worked. Theoretically, yes. As Tawny needs the dagger to cut everyone's spirit strings to relieve them of their earthly tethers, so to speak. It would make sense that it would also work against him, but maybe not. I don't know. Again, I think his pact is the oldest, but also the darkest one of them all, and it might have different conditions or stipulations. You know what? I'm gonna pick the first option. Like, of course it caught her attention. It was put right in her hands. It has to be special. Julia looked around the room, trying to think of anything. Her eyes settled on the mannequin head with the ginger wig. It looked almost identical to Tawny's clown wig. Finally, she remembered a detail that she noticed while examining the dagger. It was definitely important, but her anxiety in those fateful days hid it in the back of her mind. Shahid, did you know? The dagger had a seal?
A seal, you say?
Yes, it was fairly similar to the one I used to sign my contract.
How similar?
I don't know. I just recall it had various circles and something in the middle. Sorry if it's not that useful.
Julia, you remembered something crucial. I never thought of it until now, but it makes all the sense in the world. If we take into consideration what it does, that dagger, it probably has the seal of death drawn in it.
Of death?
That would explain it all. If that was true, then she signed the contract with the opposite seal. The life seal. It's what can make them come back and be undead immortals. Only the death seal could be powerful enough to kill them, to cut the strings that tied them to the mortal realm. How would they get their hands on it?
Would a replica work?
Words escaped her mouth as soon as she thought of it. She would have to keep quiet otherwise, overthinking if it was a good idea to replicate something so powerful and dangerous. That sounds easier said than done. There's a lot of magic involved, so I'm guessing it'll be a difficult and complex seal. We'd have to get everything right to the last detail.
But would it be possible?
Absolutely. You'd have to help, though. It's going to be very time-consuming. Time-consuming. That phrase wasn't sitting right with Julia. How much time had she already wasted? How much did she have left?
Do you have an estimate on how long it would take to remake the dagger?
I don't think we have to remake the dagger. We can use a normal one. As long as we carve the seal on it, it should work. I'd say at maximum a month if we don't rush and take our time.
Julia furrowed her brows. She was a perfectionist. She would make sure that this went perfectly.
A month of work that would end up being worth the rest of her mortal life. It was a risky deal. But the challenge would be worth the reward. She couldn't fail now. She was so close to returning home once already. Shahid stared at her, the determination in her eyes making him feel a certain kind of way. He decided to praise her. Yes, playfully. I think we're gonna say enthusiastically. Playfully is like a teasing. It feels like, no, I don't want to pick that one. I accidentally clicked the mouse button. Whoop. I'm gonna say enthusiastically because we want to be supportive of our girl. This is perfect.
It is?
We can get Tawny's dagger for a few days to take a reference for the seal and then return it as if nothing happened. He would still have his dagger, and we will have ours. He's never going to see it coming. I can already picture ourselves working on the dagger replica, or whatever weapon we choose to draw the seal on. This is going to work, Julia. I just know it. If someone told Julia a year ago that she would be smiling at the enthusiasm of an Akan, who is her partner in the murder of a ringmaster of a circus full of dead people, she would have to call the cops on them. How ironic. She was now in too deep. Her life and freedom depended on it. She already attempted once against a man's life. Moreover, Shahid radiated such a positive energy, it was contagious. She couldn't help but wanting to reciprocate.
I also want to think it's possible. What's left is figuring out how do we get the original dagger back. Do you have any ideas?
The first thing that came into his mind was...
seducing Tawny.
Ideally, yes. But... Pain seal, we already saw how that kind of turned out. And he doesn't even know what that is, my guy. I mean, checking Tawny's office, that's the very logical one, but seducing Tawny seems so funny. Yeah, I gotta pick that one. Why not? Here's the plan. You're going to tell Anton that I pressured you into killing him. Make sure you exaggerate your act really nicely, getting teary-eyed and talking about how you didn't want to ever hurt him. That all the times you were spying on him is because he caught your interest. Oh no. My bad. I thought seducing Tawny was Shahid seducing Tawny. Julia felt her stomach turn. Shahid knew about her spying? She made sure to hide it carefully so that nobody in the entire circus would know. Did she fail? Yes, you were not Solid Snake, my girl. It must be because he told me to watch Tawny. It's just a lucky guess.
What?
You knew about the spine.
Doll, the entire circus knew. It looked like you were gazing at him from afar, daydreaming.
I wasn't that obvious. Also, they got it all wrong.
You were obvious, though. Luckily, Dottie thinks you have the hots for him or something, and Dottie loves to play matchmaker. She must have told something to Anton about it, so he probably thinks the same. If you acted right, you'd be able to seduce him.
Seduce him? Why don't you do it? Shahid seemed excited about the plan, not at the thought of putting Julia in the situation, but the idea of playing the clown. His normally flirty grin looked more mischievous, as if he had a million other ideas to trick Anton. How would that even work? How would Tawny like a girl like me, even after everything I did?
That's why you need to act like it wasn't your intention.
Still, even if he did believe that, what's the guarantee he would feel something for me?
Aren't you tired of hearing me say it?
Say what?
That you're cute.
Oh, please. Julia replied in a sarcastic tone while looking away from him, trying to hide her obvious blush. Not even half as pretty as Camille or Dottie, and he doesn't seem interested in neither of them.
I'm not comparing you with anyone, and I mean every word when I compliment you. If that still doesn't convince you, liking someone is more than just liking their appearance. You're so interesting, a breath of fresh air in the circus, like no one we have ever met before. Demanding, loud, and pointing fingers at everyone. Yet very caring and genuine willingness to listen to other points of views. It's almost impossible to look away from you when you enter a room. People are curious about you and what you want to do.
Shahid's unexpected monologue left her speechless, trying to analyze every sentence. It was the first time anyone ever expressed such a detailed observation about her. He spoke about it so fluently, like he had thought about it prior to that day. What did it mean? Do you really think all of that? Do you really think that we're endgame?
I only talk by experience.
Julia cursed her heart for beating so loudly. She wondered if he had any idea of the weight of his words had on her. It felt like the sincerest compliment she had ever received. He was not joking. He never was. He did in fact think she was pretty and interesting. How could anyone act like a functional human after hearing all of that for the first time in their lives? She's trying to calm herself down, not wanting to get her hopes up too quickly. Okay, if you say so, it could work, but I won't force things. I'll just try to be his friend. The rest is on him.
Sure, what matters is you get close enough to him. It might take time, but it'd be one of the faster methods of getting the dagger back. Earn his trust, keep an eye on where he keeps the dagger. Hell, he might tell you about your little friend in the attic after enough time.
Julia wasn't paying attention to most of what Shahid said. The moment he mentioned it might take time, it felt like she had already accepted permanent death. It felt like a final, deadly blow was thrown at her. How many times has Shahid already mentioned something taking time? Her face distorted into an expression as she felt something crumple inside of her.
Why are you making that face?
Because you keep taking our plans as if we have all the time in the world. Julia bit her lip, trying her best to hold herself together. Not all of us have time, Shahid. Some of us have a few months before disappearing forever. Before being forgotten forever. There was a rush, though. An hourglass filled with sand worth more than gold. Time felt so precious to Julia now, and she would do anything she could for even an extra day.
But we do. It's not like we can die of old age here. We can only die if Tawny kills us. Is it because you think he's going to kill you during your meeting?
Julia felt her heart drop to her stomach. The thought of Tawny killing her made her forget the aforementioned never dying of old age. He won't kill me, right? He would have killed me in the room after the show. There's no way Tawny will kill me, especially if I blame this all on Shahid. Would he kill Shahid then? Is he waiting to be 100% certain he can't have us around? Shoot, why does Shahid have to say that? Is he trying to make me nervous? Can I trust him if he's saying stupid stuff like this without thinking? It's, well... A colorful world took over Julia's mind as she closed her eyes and took a deep breath. A world that looked awfully similar to the one she saw in her limbo nightmare, one that made her feel like she was in some odd maze. She remembered the finely crafted lectern, work made of some master carpenter. The pact that knew her name, the pact that required her to murder, a pact that would make her stain her hands red in innocent blood. Was Tawny really innocent, though, or was Shahid right with every implication that the ringleader was hiding something big? None of the circus seemed to know of the attic monster except Shahid. Julia disliked the idea of a secret that big and scary being kept from everyone else. Bulbous, bright yellow, decaying and ancient, and made her sick thinking about him. She wasn't sure if it was because it repulsed her or because she felt pity for its situation. One thing was certain for her about that thing. It was hidden for a reason, and it was definitely not a good one. She had to leave that place, that traveling circus of undead freaks, forever. And the only help she had to achieve was the Akan right in front of her. Then again, Shahid had promised Julia to go home, yet made no evident progress on it. He didn't tell her to aim for the thread. He assumed she knew what to do. What felt like the longest time, Shahid spoke to her in riddles that were impossible to decode. His ideas and plans were most of the time too risky, and she wondered if he did that on purpose. Could she trust him? Should she trust him by telling him about the fleeting nature of her contract? Julia decided, tell him the truth! Julia glanced at Shahid, running over the meeting in her head. She thought of all past interactions with him. He might be a bit reserved at times, but not in a way that made her think he was untrustworthy. It felt like nervousness was swarming her. Her chest tightened and felt her palms start to sweat. She could do this. She told Camille already. Shahid was just another person. A person she wanted to trust. I haven't told you about my entire pact. When I signed it, it stated that I had to kill Tawny.
Like written on it?
Yes, but it said that I had to do it in a year.
Only 1 year to kill Anton?
Julia bit her lip, her face on the verge of tears.
Wait, hold on, how does that work? What if you don't do it in that time?
If I don't, my life will end forever. I'll die. Shahid's eyes widened. Julia looked like a nervous wreck that was one step away from fully collapsing. The tension in the room felt so thick that Julia thought she was about to suffocate. Silence was the last thing she wanted to hear right now. Hell, she'd rather hear some pitiful "I'm sorry." Silence was too awkward, too uncomfortable after revealing something this significant. She only spoke to try and hopefully put an end to the silence. I'm not sure how long it's been already. I think it started when I signed the pact and joined the circus.
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
His voice was soft, soothing, like nothing she's heard before. It took her by surprise, her heart beating rapidly at what it looked like worry. I was scared and I didn't know who I could trust. I didn't tell anyone, not even Camille.
Does she know now?
Yes, I told her the day of the show. She questioned why I tried to kill Tawny, and I told her the truth. Like I'm doing right now with you. Because there's no time for me. I'm months away from my demise if I don't do something about it. Shahid looked away, his three eyes far from the present, looking at the past for any hint that could have indicated she was in that predicament, and he didn't notice.
Now it all makes sense. Why every time you spoke about killing Tawny, you always had this urgency. You were dealing with all of this on your own. You were scared, no. You are terrified right now. I'm sorry for being such an idiot.
It's okay. I'm glad you understand.
No, you don't get it, Julia.
Ah! Shahid stepped closer, slowly but surely, and took her delicate and calloused hands on his. A gesture so intimate and sincere that set her heart in a frenzy.
I have all the time in the world. I've been living the most of my life in here, and I can't die. You had a whole life ahead of you. It was taken from you, and now it forces you to kill someone so you stay alive.
He brought her hands closer to his face, resting his nose on her knuckles, closing his eyes as he was thinking.
That's so fucking unfair. You don't deserve any of this.
Julia felt on the verge of tears. He was so attentive. The only time she ever saw him like that was when Raina fell ill. He had hugged her tight and close. Even if this wasn't a hug, it felt warm and cozy like one. She felt comfortable in showing vulnerability. I just want to go home, Shahid. Her voice cracked, letting herself cry quietly, her beautiful eyes looking at him with longing.
Julia, I'll do whatever it takes to grant that wish. Like I promised, we'll kill Anton, save Jathar, and get you home as soon as possible. Together.
No, she's crying. Shahid let go of her hand so she could wipe the tears off of her face. He wanted to do that himself, but he felt like he was already too personal and didn't want to trouble her. Thank you. It means so much to me. And here, I thought you'd be mad.
Mad? Why would I be?
Because I didn't tell you before. I hid that information from you, and it could interfere with the plan.
I couldn't blame you. All of us have secrets weighing on our backs, and we're never sure when it's the right time to share that burden with another person.
He realized the words that came out of his mouth and reflected on them. He felt like he was ready to address the issue with her.
Next time. Next time we meet, I'll tell you everything about how I got here. And why I hate Anton.
Don't feel obligated because of me. You don't have to.
I want to. You decided to trust me, so I want to trust you too. I just need some time to think about it, organize my ideas. It's a long story.
Not gonna lie, I've been very curious about it.
Really? Do you think about me that much?
Oh, hush. Her cheeks were once again colored, this time she was smiling. Her heart was starting to accept that she liked his teasing.
Well, your prayers have been heard, milady.
With exaggerated hand gestures, confident posture, and fake announcer voice, he played around to lift up the mood.
I swear I will answer all of your questions shortly, don't you worry. I know you're dying to know all the juicy details.
Julia wholeheartedly laughed at his antics. She hasn't laughed like that in months. Shahid felt proud for being able to make her laugh out loud, joining her laughter with his giggles. It was the best they could do after such tension, laugh it off. When Julia finally calmed down, she looked at him with a bright smile. She wanted to stay more time with him, but decided against it since it was the most prudent. He promised to talk about him when they meet again, so she'll look forward to that. I should probably get going already.
Take care on your way back. And don't worry about the plan. I'll try to be as fast as possible.
That sounds perfect.
See you soon then?
Yeah, see you. Shahid lingers behind as Julia leaves. Julia exited through the door, careful that she's not being watched. She was happy and nervous. Happy that he understood her, that he supported her, and that he promised so much with the look in his eyes so full of genuine care and concern for her. And nervous about how their plan would develop. Would they be able to accomplish all the things they set themselves to do? Would they be successful? Shahid, on the other hand, had those preoccupations and more. Julie was on a countdown, so every second mattered. He worried he wouldn't be able to do everything on time. What he knew is that he'll try his best. He didn't want to disappoint her. He wanted to kill Tawny and flee alongside her. He wanted to save her. He had found his determination after all these endless years, and he would not be giving it away. They will succeed. They will live. They will escape the circus and be free.
Oh, there's 7 endings, partners in crime. Oh, and we got our character art. Oh, look at them.
All right, well, that was a lot of me talking, and my throat is feeling it now. So I'm probably going to play the rest of these endings off screen, which means you, the viewer, go down to the description, point the amazing game developers, go to the Itch.io page, download it, play it for yourself, and go read Marionetta if you haven't already. My God, it's amazing. Well, so concludes tonight's date. Thank you so much for joining me. Please leave a like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. And as always, I hope to see you next time. Bye!